aside, there's another matter that has to be ventilated here this morning, and it is a matter of very grave concern. And Trinidad and Tobago, those who are viewing, this is a matter that I ask you to pay particular attention to because it affects all of us. It affects our nation's national security, and it affects our safety of ourselves and our loved ones. What we have discovered over the last 24 hours in Trinidad and Tobago is that there is a gang, members of a gang, monitoring police stations in Trinidad and Tobago through CCTV cameras and very sophisticated technology and infrastructure. And that is something that is very chilling, concerning, and worrying in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to just point you to the Guardian front page. Gangs spying on cops. Munilal blame it on Hines. He calls for a full-scale probe into the illegal activity. Wants an inventory of surveillance equipment in public spaces. And lastly, the minister mum on matter. This is a very serious issue in Trinidad and Tobago, and I ask you to just pay particular attention to what I'm going to tell you here this morning. We have to remember what took place here in Trinidad and Tobago in March 2024. There was a shake-up of the SSA where the head of the SSA was sent on administrative leave. On the 1st of March, which was a Friday, there was an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. On the 2nd of March, we learned through the Office of the Prime Minister that the head of the SSA was sent on administrative leave. By Sunday morning, in the wee hours of the morning, the SSA was locked down by police so that no one can enter or leave. And then we saw subsequent newspaper reports that talks about a link with respect to what took place in March to the killing of one Andy Daniel, a CCTV technician operator who was the husband of the deputy head of the SSA. In November last year, Mr. Andy Daniel was assassinated while driving his panel van along the highway in the vicinity of Monroe Road. And Mr. Daniel murder or assassination, according to a Guardian article dated the 17th of March 2024, entitled The Hijack of the SSA, 3 Murders Linked to Security Agency Probe, found that Mr. Daniel, a private CCTV contractor, was the husband of Joanne Daniel, the deputy director of the intelligence of the SSA. And what the article says, and it's not disputed, is that not only did Andy Daniel work for government officials, he installed the cameras at some of their homes and kept the administration rights to the system, sources disclosed. It was his administration rights to the camera systems, which include some of the country's top officials, businessmen, and gangsters, all named, which he could remotely tap into any given point, which made it a valuable commodity for intelligence and criminal elements for use and abuse. Guardian Media could not establish whether Daniel was also a contractor of the SSA, given that its business is subject to only oversight by its director, but learned that how much Daniel shared about his business with the SSA is now part of its inquiry. Very troubling state of affairs. Then another article written by one, I believe, Mark Bassant. It was dated the 10th of March and updated on the 12th of March. Daniel murder may be tied to abuse of power, possible hit squad. And the article reads, investigators and other intelligence sources believe that Daniel's murder had to do with a civilian, not his relative, who once worked at the SSA. They believe that his murder was ultimately caused by the civilians' misuse of their power of responsibility, power and unfettered access to volatile security equipment and personnel, and possibly with the assistance of SSA officials. an investigator told the Sunday Express. According to intelligence sources, there are grave concerns about an apparent security threat following the infiltration of this special intelligence unit by civilians who they suspect were using it for nefarious crimes such as murder. Over the past 4 months, investigators have been pursuing several clues to Daniel's death. And then in the last 24 hours, Trinidad and Tobago learned that gangs were using state property, that being the TNT poles, to install CCTV cameras together with routers to monitor various police stations. I have in my possession an official police report outlining some of these chilling details and facts. This report is dated the 10th of May, 2024. This is a very serious matter, Trinidad and Tobago. And the report says that the operations focused on the surveillance of cameras mounted on TNT poles in the Tunapuna, Montgrand, Tunapuna area at Basanta Trace, St. John Road, Montgrand, without the permission of TNT. Permission to mount any surveillance cameras or any other items, permission must be given in writing. And then we learned that there were a total of 23 cameras that were removed from these lamp poles. 13 cameras of the Tunapuna area and 10 cameras of light poles in the Basanta Trace area. And what we have learned also is that these cameras were being manned by gang members, and these cameras were on the lookout to alert gang members who may have illegal firearms and narcotics in their possession, thereby thwarting the efforts of law enforcement. All cameras were removed and taken to the Tunapuna police station pending further inquiries. And this report was referenced in a Guardian article yesterday that was released by the Guardian newspaper. And in that report, it indicated that the 23 cameras were removed. However, there was an exercise that took place somewhere in Bangladesh, St. Joseph. And what they found is that this location was believed as to be a monitoring hub. And this hub was outfitted with 2 large television screens, which showed a total of 62 cameras recording live feeds of 3 police stations in NCD, including the St. Joseph Police Station, the Tunapuna Police Station, and the Aruca Police Station. They recovered 23 cameras, but according to the devices that they found in the hub, there were 62 feeds, which means that there are 41 illegal cameras unaccounted for. Today, I call on the Minister of National Security and the Prime Minister to indicate whether or not they have uncovered and dismantled those 41 illegal cameras that are unaccounted for. This is a very serious and grave matter that I'm raising here this morning. We call for a full-scale investigation into this matter. There must be an immediate and complete overhaul of the national security inventory in Trinidad and Tobago to determine whether or not all of our cameras are accounted for. TNT must also investigate whether or not there are any illegal cameras erected on any TNT poles throughout Trinidad and Tobago. I also call on the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to undertake his own investigation to determine whether or not any offices of the DPP are being monitored. I call on the judiciary to also conduct an investigation to determine whether or not any courts or court facilities are being monitored through illegal cameras. I call on financial institutions and banks to do the same to determine whether or not their institutions and their places of business are being monitored by illegal cameras. We have seen a scourge of persons being robbed as soon as they exit a bank with large sums of money. We don't know whether or not these banks and these institutions are being monitored. I also call on the Business Association and the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago to respond to this particular matter because it is a grave concern for businesses in Trinidad and Tobago and the operations of financial institutions. Members of the media